about the steering axle mainly, but please note that you'll also could potentially talk about this drive axle here and then also those trailer wheels down there. But to the list here, they first start out with the tires. So you'll mention that this tires here, the tread depth here is not worn too thin. It's at least 4/32 deep, evenly worn all the way around. Also this tread, it's a virgin tread. It cannot be recapped. There's no signs that it's been recapped at all. Then I'm going to inspect the sidewalls, both inside the sidewall here and also on the outside here, to make sure there's no abrasions, bulges, or cuts. It's not cracked or leaking at all. I'm going to listen for air leaks there. And then I'm going to make sure I have proper inflation. I'm going to read the spec on the tire. And with an air gauge, I'm going to check it down here with the tire gauge right there. The valve stem's not loose, not cracked or leaking at all. The tire here is securely mounted. Talk about the rims right here. So when we talk about the rims, we'll make sure that the rims, we'll inspect them inside and out to make sure there's no illegal welds at all. They're not cracked, bent, or dented at all. Also, there's no gap or space or exposed bead where the tire meets the rim. The tire's sealed all the way around. The rims here are securely mounted. Now we'll talk about the lug nuts here. So I'm going to inspect all these lug nuts to make sure none of them are loose or missing. None of them are cracked, bent, or dented at all. All these lugs too are in place. I don't have any missing or loose lugs at all. There's no shiny threads at all. All these lug nuts are tight to the rim. There's no gap or space or any rust trails at all. All the lug nuts here are securely mounted. The springs, shocks, airbags, and spring mounts. So starting with the springs right here, the springs, they're straight, they're not scissoring one another, none of them are loose or missing at all. They're metal, so the metal's not cracked, bent, or dented or rusted through anywhere at all. There's no missing nuts or bolts up here or back there. These U-bolts down here, I don't have any loose or missing U-bolts at all. None of them are cracked, bent, or dented. There's no missing nuts below. There's no shiny exposed threads at all. The springs are securely mounted. My shock is right here. My shock is straight. It's not cracked, bent, or dented or leaking at all. Also up here on the bush, there's no loose or missing bushings at all. Up here or down here, there's no missing nuts or bolts down here or shiny exposed threads here. Same up here, there's no missing nuts or bolts or shiny exposed threads here. Also, this bracket is tight to the frame. It's not loose. There's no gap between the bracket and the frame at all. The shock here is securely mounted. Then we'll talk about the spring mounts right here. The spring mounts right here. I have a spring mount up here in the front. I'm going to follow that spring all the way down out here to the back. That spring mount is down here. That spring mount is tight to the frame. It's not twisted, sagging, or loose at all. And then I'll come up here and do pretty much the same. The spring mount right here is not twisted, sagging, or loose at all. All the metal on the spring mounts, both front and back, they're not cracked, bent, or dented at all. They're not rusted through anywhere at all. And up here in the front, I'll make sure that that bushing's inside there. The bushing's not worn through, loose, or missing at all. The spring mount up here in the front. And also those here in the back are securely mounted. They have brake lines and hoses. So you'll talk about this brake hose here that goes down this way, connects to the brake chamber here, and also the supply line right here. And also this ABS line that goes all around here. So starting with the brake hose here, you'll mention that it's secured to the supply line up here in the truck. The connector there is not cracked or leaking at all. The hose here, there's no abrasions, bulges, cuts. It's not cracked or leaking over here. And over here by the brake chamber, it's not cracked or leaking at all. You're going to listen for air leaks all along here, all along the hose and where it connects up here. The ABS line too is securely tied up. It's not going to drag on the ground or get tangled up in the wheel at all. Also, it's plugged in. You'll also mention that there's no corroded, exposed, or loose wires on the ABS line at all. The ABS line and the brake hose here are securely mounted. Here on the steering axle for 2023, you're going to talk about brake contaminants. So what you're going to do is you're going to inspect this rim right here on the inside of the rim. You'll say that it's dry inside there. There's no oil or grease at all. Also, there's no debris in there at all. You might also mention that these linings are dry too. There's no oil or grease on these linings at all. And then you may also mention that the lining thickness is at least 1/4 inch thick and it's evenly worn all the way around. It's not worn dangerously thin at all.